There is a sound in the universe, yes, even though it's a vacuum, and if you could hear it, you would probably never want to look at space the same way again. What is that sound? Where does it come from? And why do scientists call it one of the most disturbing signals in history?
The unknown is always frightening. And what could be more mysterious than space and its inhabitants? That's why people are wary and, if possible, avoid sudden encounters with the rocky visitors from space. But such rendezvous have long since moved from the pages of science fiction books into real life. And it's not even necessary to recall events from many years ago, such as the fall of the Tunguska meteorite. There are also more modern examples. Remember, 6 years ago, another celestial visitor came to Chelyabinsk without asking, causing a lot of noise. But meteorites, asteroids, and other objects don't necessarily have to come to Earth. We ourselves strive to visit them, if not in person, then with the help of unmanned vehicles. The most accessible bodies are those located within the boundaries of the solar system. One of these will be the subject of our discussion. I'll subscribe. Thanks to Galileo's curiosity, humanity learned for the first time about the 4 largest moons of Jupiter. Ganymede is the largest of them. Named after the mythical companion of the great Zeus, it is the largest moon in our star system. Comparing its size to Earth's satellite, Ganymede definitely comes out on top. The Jovian moon is even larger than the planet Mercury. But these aren't the only details in Ganymede's biography that can surprise you. In a little while, you'll find out what this incredibly distant world looks like, what amazing features it has, and you'll also get to know the terrifying eye of Jupiter. In short, get your popcorn ready. Progress has allowed humanity to observe the celestial body not only with telescopes. Earthlings observed Ganymede through the eyes of both pioneers and voyagers, as well as with the Galileo spacecraft. The New Horizons spacecraft also flew past the moon. The first spacecraft, Pioneer 10, reached Jupiter in December 1973. It took a closer look at the main moons of the gas giant, refining their density measurements. The photos taken by Pioneer 10 are quite poor in quality due to the imperfect hardware of the probe, but still, these are the first images of Ganymede and the other 3 Galilean moons. By the way, after exploring the Jupiter system, Pioneer 10, with its golden plaque and message on board, continued its journey, and contact with it was only lost in 2003. Now the spacecraft is 12 billion kilometers away from us. I want to believe that after 2 million years, the probe will eventually reach the star Aldebaran, toward which it is heading. The counterpart of the first interplanetary spacecraft, Pioneer 11, did not revolutionize the study of the gas giant's moons. It flew past Jupiter's moons in 1974, and after briefly collecting express data about them, set off on a 4 million year journey to the constellation Aquila. The greatest achievements in the study of Ganymede were made by 3 probes, Voyagers and Galileo. The latter was in orbit around Jupiter from 1995 to 2003, gathering a wealth of valuable information. Thanks to these spacecraft, we know what Ganymede looks like, what secrets it hides beneath its icy surface, and we can even hear its eerie lunar wails. But let's take it one step at a time. The Voyagers passed near the Galilean moon almost simultaneously in March and July of 1979. When designing the spacecraft, past mistakes were taken into account, and their equipment was significantly upgraded. Therefore, the result was incomparable to what the pioneers demonstrated. For example, Voyager 2 repeatedly photographed the cratered surface of Ganymede from a relatively close distance. And by combining these images, a collage was made that allows us to imagine the appearance of Jupiter's mysterious moon. It was the voyagers that revealed to the world the exact dimensions of Ganymede and its geological features. After all, until 1979, Saturn's Titan was considered the largest moon. But the greatest contribution to uncovering the mysteries of Ganymede was made by the Galileo spacecraft. In addition to a detailed photo session of the moon covered with a crust of dirty ice, the probe made a real discovery. The research made it possible to suggest that beneath the surface of Ganymede, there is a liquid ocean. It is implied that it is 10 times deeper than Earth's oceans and hidden beneath a 150-kilometer thick layer of ice. Scientists were led to this idea by traces of sodium and magnesium salts found in the spectrogram. Galileo also discovered a magnetosphere around Jupiter's moon. This is a unique phenomenon. No other satellite in the solar system has such a luxury. Even more amazing is the fact that Ganymede's magnetosphere is completely autonomous and does not depend on Jupiter's powerful field. Do you want to see the frozen moon with your own eyes, which is almost 630 million kilometers away from us? Then, pay attention to the screen. Now we will visit a world made up of iron silicate rocks, caps of water ice, vast craters, and ancient tectonic faults. On the surface of Ganymede, which resembles an unimaginably large skating rink, it is very cold. During the day, the temperature does not rise above minus 170 degrees Celsius, and at night it can drop to minus 200. Jupiter reigns over the sky of this moon. Its massive bulk looms 1 million kilometers away from Ganymede. It takes the moon just over a week to complete one orbit around the giant. Ganymede has an extremely thin oxygen atmosphere. Here, it smells of sulfur and cyanogen, a highly toxic gas with an almond-like aroma. As it turns out, the moon is two-toned. The bright part symbolizes a young landscape, while the dark part is ancient, about 4 billion years old. Ganymede is spotted. The bright white star-shaped areas are ice ejections that appeared after the formation of young craters, of which there are dozens on Jupiter's moon. Only ghosts remain from some of the old craters. Relic traces of ancient catastrophes called palimpsests. The largest of these ghosts is the Memphis Facula, with a diameter of 360 kilometers. Let's think about whether there are any sounds in this dead world. It turns out yes. The probes managed to record the voice of the moon's magnetosphere, but after hearing it, you want to sit in silence for a while. Here it is, the infernal aria of Ganymede. The sound resembles the most powerful thunderstorm possible on Earth, interspersed with strong electrical discharges and an otherworldly howl. Is that not enough for you? Then finally, it's worth mentioning one more secret of this Galilean moon. In 2014, the astronomical community fell into a quiet panic. Images from the Hubble telescope clearly showed that a monstrous pupil had appeared on the Great Red Spot. Because of this, the interplanetary hurricane of unprecedented strength began to resemble a huge mystical eye. Fortunately, catastrophic scenarios were avoided. It was simply the shadow of its neighbor Ganymede falling on Jupiter's vortex. In short, this ice-bound moon is so enticing that it definitely deserves to be studied in more detail. What thoughts come to your mind when it comes to the human population? Isn't it true that sometimes you have mixed feelings? On the one hand, during its existence, humanity has made remarkable progress. We have learned to cure deadly diseases, created many intelligent machines, reversed the flow of rivers, turned barren lands into blooming gardens, conquered mountain peaks, and explored the ocean floor. On the other hand, humanity has not mentally advanced far from barbarian tribes, constantly attempting to seize foreign territories, killing in the name of imaginary gods and acting from a position of strength. Perhaps this is yet another answer to the well-known Fermi paradox. They are not here because no one wants to deal with us. After all, the overwhelming majority of Earth's inhabitants are too aggressive and primitive. It may take centuries to correct this aspect. Meanwhile, progress is not inexorable. He is not concerned with moral doctrines. That is why we persistently continue to search for others like ourselves in the cold cosmos. Recently, the world was swept by amazing news. Another planet was discovered near the closest star to us, Proxima Centauri. Maybe life is already stirring there? Proxima Centauri is located about 4 light-years away from Earth. Apparently that's why it's called that, since Proxima means nearest in Latin. The star is quite modest in size. Its diameter is just 1.5 times bigger than Jupiter's. If you compare Proxima Centauri to our Sun, it is 8 times smaller in mass and 7 times smaller in diameter. Overall, the system consists of 3 stars. 2 of them are located quite close to each other. But Proxima is currently almost 2 billion kilometers away from the other members of the stellar trio. The largest one, much bigger than our Sun, is Centauri A. Its closest partner is about half its size, and Proxima is the tiniest compared to its distant neighbors. That's why it's impossible to observe the star without special optics. What does the discovery of this small star, made, by the way, in 1915, tell us? First, previously, the closest star to the Sun was thought to be the huge Centaurus A. Second, over time, a planetary system was discovered near Proxima Centauri. Naturally, as always in such cases, astronomers began to speculate whether there is biological life on at least one of these planets. This seems unlikely. After all, Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf, an extremely unstable star. Life that is constantly accompanied by bursts of incredible amounts of energy, destroying everything in its path. It's important to understand that the existence of a red dwarf is pure hell, both for itself and for the surrounding objects. Proxima Centauri is considered a long-lived star. Red dwarfs live for tens of trillions of years, remaining on the main sequence much longer and not transforming into other types of stars. So, once life develops on planets near such stars, it has a certain chance for further progress. That's probably where the good news ends. Red dwarfs are very dim. For example, Proxima Centauri's luminosity is 10,000 times less than that of our Sun. That means a potential exoplanet has to be close enough to the star. Otherwise, it simply won't get enough light and heat for life to emerge. Such a condition leads to the following problem: tidal locking. What is that? When a less massive body gets too close to a larger one, it is forced to always keep the same side facing it. A similar phenomenon can be observed in the solar system. For example, think of our own satellite, the Moon. What physical conditions would the surface of a planet in tidal lock offer? On one side, oceans of lava would boil, while in the shadowed hemisphere, an eternal ice age would reign. But what is the main obstacle to the emergence of life on planets orbiting red dwarfs? It's the excessive activity of such stars. Sterilizing radiation flares are capable of destroying any nascent life at the very beginning. What can this be compared to? Imagine that our Sun turned into a red giant for several thousand years, and then later returned to its original size. Guess what will happen to the Earth during this period? Basically, a red dwarf is like a mentally unstable woman in the middle of a hormonal upheaval. It's impossible to predict when the next destructive flare will happen. But that's all theory, so what about in practice? Because of its relative proximity to us, Proxima Centauri and its planetary system have been studied comparatively well. Moreover, new details are being discovered every year. It is known that in the so-called Goldilocks zone, the star's habitable zone, several planets are orbiting. The discovery of such small objects was extremely difficult for scientists. To achieve this, all known indirect observation methods had to be used. In particular, the radial velocity method was actively used. What does this principle involve? The fact is that planets, even the smallest ones, influence their stars by shifting their center of gravity. This is noticeable thanks to the Doppler effect. Thus, astronomers, by observing the shift of spectral lines with a high-precision spectrograph and measuring velocity deviations, discovered a planetary system near the red dwarf Proxima Centauri. The VLT telescope and the specialized espresso spectrograph were used for the observation. But despite the high precision of the advanced instruments, scientists doubted for a long time. Perhaps these were just periodic changes in the star's luminosity. The concerns were not justified, so the catalogs were updated with another object, Proxima d. At the moment, 3 planets of different sizes and characteristics have been discovered near Proxima Centauri. The most recent one, as already mentioned, was detected in February 2022. This was done by a group of astronomers from the European Southern Observatory, located in Chile. Scientists announced the existence of Proxima c 2 years earlier. What does the newly discovered planet Proxima d look like, according to astronomers? It orbits almost right next to its parent star, just 4 million kilometers away. That's 10 times closer than Mercury is to the Sun. Accordingly, a year on Proxima d is only 5 days long. Its mass is extremely small, about a quarter of Earth's. This makes Proxima d the least massive of all discovered planets of this type. Thus, it is a small object with low mass. Its neighbors, Proxima b and Proxima c, orbit a little farther from their parent star. The first one lasts 11 days and the second one lasts 5 Earth years. Is Proxima d located in the habitable zone of its star? There is active debate about this, but most scientists agree that it is not. It orbits too close to the red giant. It is estimated that the temperature on its surface is about plus 87 degrees Celsius. Could this become an obstacle to the development of life on the planet? If we remember that extremophile bacteria live even in Earth's boiling geysers, then probably not. But the main thing that astronomers want to convey to the world is this. Around our nearest star, there is a whole array of different worlds, from super-Earths to tiny, almost weightless planets. This inspires optimism and the desire to continue searching. But here's the most interesting part. Have there ever been any signals detected coming from the depths of the Proxima Centauri star system? It turns out yes. This happened in December 2020. The signal was immediately given the designation BLC1, and they began to study it meticulously. The unexpected greeting from the Proxima Centauri system was received using the telescope at the Parkes Observatory in Australia. The corresponding program started back in 2015, and its goal was to search for extraterrestrial signals. It is clear that the first object astronomers targeted was the closest star to us, Proxima Centauri. And after 5 long years, they got a result. A signal with a spectral width of 1 gigahertz was considered impossible to be produced by an astrophysical object of natural origin. In addition, scientists claimed that the source of the signal could not possibly be located on our planet. Its intensity changed, which most likely indicated the orbital rotation of the object emitting the signal. The transmission of the alien message lasted for about 30 hours. Astrophysicists also ruled out random echoes from artificial satellites or passing airplanes as the cause, since this frequency is not used by those objects. Does this mean that, for the first time since the famous WOW signal, we've once again detected sounds from an advanced civilization? Unfortunately, no. Later on, scientists concluded that BLC-1 actually has a terrestrial origin. Perhaps the process of intermodulation is to blame, during which two frequencies mix, producing radio interference. What a disappointment. It makes you want to ask once again, so where are they all? Is there any plan for further exploration of the Alpha Centauri star system? In the distant future, yes. An interstellar shuttle might be sent to our closest neighbor. However, the journey would take more than 1,000 years, unless, of course, a nuclear propulsion system is used. For comparison, the Voyager probe, traveling at 17 kilometers per second, would take about 74,000 years to reach the star. But who knows, if progress continues to develop at the same relentless pace, then by using a nuclear pulse engine, a flight to Proxima Centauri could be limited to just 1 century. Those aren't the only ideas. What do you think about microprobes? A project called Breakthrough Starshot proposes sending a swarm of tiny probes to the target, traveling at a speed that is 20% of the speed of light. They will be propelled by clusters of ground-based lasers. If the project became a reality, we would receive data about the planetary system of Proxima Centauri in the first half of this century, but the information would take a long 4 years to reach us. Considering the fact that humanity already has more than enough problems on Earth, is it worth moving in this direction and continuing the search for habitable exoplanets? Scientists are sure that it is. Surely you've seen the theory on the internet more than once that Americans actually never went to the moon, and that all the photos and videos are just fakes. And sometimes questions arise. Maybe we've really been lied to all this time? Maybe no one was ever able to visit the surface of Earth's satellite. Now we're going to figure this out together. Look at these images. These are the footprints of Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt, who once had the chance to fly to the moon. And here is Schmitt himself collecting soil samples. This is Eugene Cernan testing one of the devices. And here is Schmitt handling the moon's gravity. The flight cost NASA $25 million. However, many do not believe in the achievement. They are puzzled by all these images and consider it a skillful staging. Let's not delve into conspiracy theories, but speak exclusively in the language of facts. What evidence could there be that the Americans were on the moon? The first thing that comes to mind is that they must have left at least some traces behind. After all, as we can see from the photos, they collected soil samples and drove around in a four-wheeled vehicle. We need to study the surface of the moon more closely, but there are some difficulties with that. We can study galaxies and planets in detail in photographs, but the traces of the Americans' presence on the moon are not as noticeable, and you can't see them with the naked eye because of the limited resolving power of our eyes. For example, the lunar module, which should still be there, is about the size of a large car, and that's very small. Let's talk in more detail about the resolving power of our eyes. For a human, it's equal to 1 arc minute. What is this value? First of all, it's worth remembering that we perceive the sky as a semicircle, or a hemisphere, of 180 degrees. To be able to navigate among objects, the distance between them is measured in arc seconds and arc minutes. The entire world around us equals 360 degrees, and a person is able to observe a little less than half of that, about 180. All space is divided into 360 parts. One part, that is 1 degree, contains 60 arc minutes. Each of the arc minutes is further divided into 60 parts arc seconds. Thus, the distance between objects in space can be several degrees or several arc minutes. For example, the sun or the moon for us is about half a degree or 60 arc minutes, and the Andromeda galaxy is 3 degrees in size. To make it even clearer, imagine an ordinary ball. If you throw it 13 meters ahead, that will equal 1 degree. If you unlock superhuman abilities and throw it 800 meters away, the angular size will already be 1 arc minute. If a strong wind blows and carries your ball as far as 5 kilometers, that will be 1 arc second. But will we be able to see it from that distance? Of course not, because the resolving power of our eyes does not exceed 1 arc minute. It's a different story for some animal species, and of course telescopes. Their resolving power is much higher than that of humans. To find out if this particular device is suitable for our research, we need to do calculations using the formula 120 divided by the diameter of the main mirror of the telescope, but it must be in millimeters. The results obtained will be the angular resolution. The most basic models of these devices have a maximum angular resolution of 0.6 arc seconds. This is not enough to see the traces of the Americans in space. For this, a value of 0.001 arc seconds is needed. Let's see what the more powerful devices have. Let's take the Hubble telescope. Using the formula, we find that its angular resolution is 0.05 arc seconds. That's still not enough, but Hubble can still give us something useful. Take a look at this picture. Do you see this red spot? Apollo 17 once landed at this spot, but we can't see anything up close. Let's move on. In the Andes Mountains in Chile, there is a device with a mirror diameter of 8 meters. Accordingly, its resolution is 0.0015 arc seconds. And once again, we can't find out anything. Since we can't get anything we need from Earth, we should just get closer. Luckily, satellites from various countries are always in space. And what were they able to find? This is an image taken by the Chandrayaan spacecraft. Here you can see the Apollo 15 landing site, but the images are also blurry. It's a different story with the Kaguya spacecraft, made in Japan. Stereo imaging was used to capture objects on the surface of the moon. That's why scientists were able to recreate the terrain of Earth's satellite in 3-dimensional detail. These materials were compared with the images taken by the Americans during their flight to the moon. No inconsistencies or inaccuracies were found. The largest telescope in space with a resolution of 0.6 arc seconds was located on a satellite called Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. The device, in terms of its characteristics, is not much different from ordinary telescopes. While being at a distance of 40 kilometers from the surface of the moon, the telescope took the highest quality images of the landing sites of American spacecraft. Look, the spacecraft was located at this spot, Apollo 11. And over here was Apollo 12. Pay attention to the rover's tire tracks in this area, and remember the photo with Eugen Cernan that we showed you at the beginning. And here is an image of Apollo 14, Apollo 15, Apollo 16, and the last flight, which used Apollo 17. In the last frame, by the way, you can make out the outlines of the lunar mare. In addition, the astronauts left behind the vehicle they used to move around on the surface, as well as some instruments for studying the surface. As you can see, the facts speak for themselves. The Americans have been to the moon, and not just once. Photos taken by spacecraft prove this, and of course the astronauts left their footprints there. Let's, to be completely sure, verify their authenticity as well. In 2007, the company Google organized an unusual competition. It was called Google Lunar X Prize, and its main idea was to send a small lunar rover to Earth's satellite. The team that completed the mission the fastest would receive $20 million. The second fastest team would be awarded $5 million. The bonus prize was the same amount. The main conditions were as follows. The device had to land softly, travel at least 500 meters on the surface, and take high-resolution photos and videos. The final of the competition took place in 2017. 5 teams participated. But in 2018, something unfortunate happened. Google decided to freeze the competition. This was because no one was able to meet the requirements, and too much time had already passed. Even though we didn't get to see any interesting developments for the competition, This doesn't affect the current state of affairs in any way. Yes, the foot of an American astronaut definitely stepped on the surface of the moon. And who knows, maybe many years from now, flights there will become available to everyone. And what do you think? Well, that's it. A brief overview. Now would be a good time to ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. But I think you already know where to click and what to do. Talk to you soon.